Happiness through curiosity on the Ranveer Show. I have to ask you about your experience in Israel from a very human perspective. Because I remember when we were trying to schedule this particular episode, we got to know that you're in Israel. And my first thought was, wow, that's insanely brave. Um, can you take us through like your human perspective from the time you got there till like time you left? Everything you saw, uh, step by step.
So I'll start from when the attack happened. It was a Saturday.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember distinctly we just had lunch and I settled with my book. And then, you know, what we do every time we start something, we look at our phone. एक बार देख लेते हैं क्या हो रहा है. And I saw it was trending. And then I saw the videos and I thought they're fake because how is this even possible? Then I called office and I was told that yes, something like this has happened. So I said, let's call the team. We should track it and we should do Vantage tonight. And you know, the thing about being in a newsroom when news is developing is that it's a very different atmosphere because information is pouring in from all sides and people are typing and saying something and you're constantly updated no matter what you're doing. And it's a very charged environment. And the more we learned, the more disbelief I remember feeling that how is it possible? Because Israel is a country I've been to in the past and I've seen a much happier side of Israel. And so around 4 o'clock, I think I called the embassy. And I said that how can I get there? And they said, we are still figuring it out. But by evening, to their credit, I heard from them that we are opening in the morning, Sunday morning, to give visas to those who want to go. And when we landed there at 8 a.m. on Sunday, we saw so many people from the Indian press. And the same evening, we were on a flight, and I remember talking to my children, and my daughter was very upset. And my son, before saying bye to me, he said, "Are you going to get bombed?" So I said, "No." So he said, "Are you 100% sure?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Then go, have fun." But I think that's his way of trying to not sound too serious, but also tell me that. But yeah, anyway. So we land there, and that's the thing I noticed on the flight, that while everyone else is leaving the country, and I've seen it in more than one war, there are two sets of people who enter a country, journalists and soldiers. Everyone else is leaving. The difference is that soldiers are trained and equipped, and we are just chasing stories. And at the airport, we heard the first siren. The Ben Gurion airport had come under, they faced some sort of fire, and we all were made to run into a shelter. And that's a very, very hard entry into a war zone. And there were three of us, and it was quite shocking, obviously.
Was there any fear inside you when you were on your way there?
No.
You're just sure of
I'm
doing
a
your
little,
job.
I was very sure that I have to go and do this. And I think more than that, I was very sure in Israel's ability to make sure that this will end quickly. That, I don't know. Maybe because I have a lot of friends there. That's the side of Israel that I'd seen. It hasn't turned out that way, and it's become very, very chaotic and unfortunate now. But I remember, like, we're having breakfast in the morning, and then you hear a thud, and something has fallen, and you're trying to go into the areas where the attacks happened, and the Hamas guys came in, and it was not, you're through a friend, we were trying to meet somebody whose sister was taken hostage. And they said, you can come, we'll talk to you. And while we're on our way, they call us and say, no, actually, we're not in a position to talk. Because it's a tough, it's just happened like a day before. So you saw a lot of raw human emotion. And at that time, you're not really processing. I remember one of the shows we did was from a part of Jerusalem, which is which has more Arabs. And you would see a lot of, if you see the international frames, you'll see the Al-Aqsa Mosque in the background. And it's a very nice TV-friendly frame, but that area is a little tense. And we saw a lot of young men who were offering their prayers and then standing and listening to what is being said. By everyone. And we had a much smaller crew. Obviously, just me and 2 other people. And I think it was there or somewhere, we did a story on how Hamas should be declared a terrorist group and so on. And it was, our driver got very worked up. And they said that you have to wrap and leave because you don't know. It was very volatile. And at that point, you're just thinking from one story to the next and getting your show done. And then there was a day when, you had this alert system where you knew when missiles are falling. And it went red. And people said that the Hezbollah has entered. It turned out to be a false alert, and there was some glitch in the alarm system. But when it happened, and then the flights started getting cancelled. So even the people I knew in Israel said that take the first flight out, go. If the Hezbollah enters, then it's going to be a very long drawn war. We don't know what's going to happen. The last time it happened in 2006, we spent a couple of months underground and don't stay here. And it was so you are managing your family that is also trying to be supportive, but also worried. You are trying to deliver your best. It's very easy for people who sit here and say, what did you do? Indian journalists went, they just stood in one place, did a PTC, did a show. This is not journalism. Look at what we have in terms of resources compared to what, again, the Western press had. And look at what we've been able to deliver. And I've seen, I will not name names, but there are reporters from India who were sent there who did not have money for a cab and they were hitchhiking with some milk delivery van just to go to a place. Why is that guy doing it? Because he's passionate about the story. So no combat training or training for reporting in a conflict zone, not completely inappropriate gear, just for the love of what you do. So I think we should cut some slack to a lot of, and I'm not counting myself there because I'm much better supported by my organization. But there are a lot of people who are just out on a limb trying to cover a war because they want to cover a war. So that's my takeaway from, and it just, when a week later when you're sitting in your office and typing something and somebody drops something on the same floor, it unsettles you because you forget that you are in Delhi and not in Tel Aviv.
What does a bomb feel like when it bursts near you?
I've not seen an explosion, but I've seen missiles. Their systems are very strong. But you're one moment you're doing a PTC and then there's a siren and you're told to run. And everyone, I forget the name of the village where we were, but when the siren went off, we tried to sit under a pomegranate tree. And the people inside the house started calling, saying, come inside. They did not know us. And everyone has like a shelter. So it's a different world, where you're always telling your children that you may have to spend the night in the shelter. It's not easy. It's a tough existence.
What do you learn about human beings after being in a war-torn land?
You need a lot of grit to survive, and we take our lives for granted. I've always, and I'm not saying this for the current Israeli leadership that is making some decisions just for the purpose of staying on in power. I'm speaking about the people I know, the people I've interacted with over the years. They're very, very strong. And they have survived despite everything. I mean, this is a country that no one gave a chance. 30 years back, their biggest export was oranges. Now they are the startup capital of the world. They're doing so much. They have so much enterprise. It's you can learn a lot from what they've been able to accomplish.
Just speaking about Israel as such a polarizing thing.
Hmm.
In terms of no matter what you say, one side of the audiences is going to get pissed off. People have very strong opinions on this Israel-Palestine thing. Do you have to calculate your words when delivering them on a podcast?
I just did. I said I'm not speaking for the leadership. I'm speaking for the people, because you cannot overlook the fact that on the other side, and I have, by the way, I have spent time in Ramallah as well. I've seen that side as well. People per se are not a problem. It is the leaders who have certain expectations and who use people as cannon fodder. Right? The people of Gaza are suffering. More than 30,000 civilian deaths is a very big number. There is bound to be anger and there is bound to be a pushback. These are human lives we are talking about. And it is very unfortunate. It should not have gone on like this. And the world has no strategy. What are the Americans doing? Until recently, they were dropping aid packets on Gaza and giving weapons to the Israelis. You fire these weapons, then these guys will run and then we'll give them aid. It makes no sense. Right?
It's geopolitical strategy along with great PR.
I don't think the PR is working. I think it's because of the election, because in the US, for Joe Biden's party, the Muslim American voters are very, very big. And the liberal youth, they are big supporters of Biden. And that number is shrinking because of this support to Israel in the Gaza war. So there's a lot of political calculations at play. But I'm saying that it's not a black and white equation. It's not possible to say that this side is right or that side. It's a very long drawn conflict. But that does not mean that cooler heads should not prevail. And there has to be, you can't keep fighting endlessly, right? You have to find a way to resolve this.
You spoke about the taxi driver who got upset with you, and the guys who were standing around you in Jerusalem who were gauging what you were saying on the news. Did their opinions affect your opinion on the matter?
No, I said what I had to say. I knew where they were coming from. And I'm talking about the first week after the attack. So the sentiment was very different from what it is right now. At that point, Israel was clearly the victim of an unprovoked attack, and a very heinous one at that. So I did not use any of these qualifiers. Now I see that it should not have gone this far. There should have been, what is the strategy? You can't carry on urban warfare like that, bomb and then send your soldiers on the ground and just indiscriminately kill. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution. If someone were to ask me what is going to work, I don't know.
What are your Israeli friends saying about the conflict now?
They want Netanyahu to go.
That's the general sentiment?
That is the general sentiment. He is not a popular leader. They want their people to be brought back. There are so many hostages still in Gaza, and when every bomb that Israel drops there puts them at risk. And, you cannot erase a group. You cannot... These are people we're talking about, So you have to find a way to engage. And it's not going to be easy, but where do you draw the line? And what is I think in every war, in every conflict, you have to figure out what is the goal? What are you trying to achieve? What is Russia trying to achieve? Is it Ukrainian land? Or is it Ukraine's capitulation and agreement that they will not join NATO? What is Israel looking to achieve? Eradication of Hamas seems like a very broad and honestly unattainable goal. Because you may kill the Hamas leaders, but you will radicalize so many more who may call themselves something else. So it's not ending. All people in Palestine or the Palestinian territory should not be punished for the horror that Hamas perpetrated.
So there's no way to predict geopolitical scenarios when they are this tense. You can't predict where they're going. But I'm asking the student of history and you this. If history truly repeats itself, Do you have any guesses about where it's going or how a solution can be found, or not at all?
No, a solution is always going to be found through a conversation. After the Yom Kippur War, there was a solution, you know, there was a talk, right? And both sides came to the talking table. So a solution has to be found. The only thing is that what makes it tricky? Okay, let me come out of that. Let me look at the other side of this. India versus China. What, 20 rounds of talks since the Galwan clash? We are willing to talk. But the other side is not sincere in that conversation. They're coming to the talking table, but they're not doing anything. What do you do then? That's a different kind of impasse. So I think there's no one-size-fits-all solution. You have to see what kind of a customer you're dealing with. And you have to act accordingly. In this case, maybe had they co-opted some of the, a lot of things were going good for Israel after the Abraham Accords, Arab powers giving them recognition. The Saudis were very close to or were working on recognizing Israel and establishing some sort of a diplomatic relationship. And right after the attack, there was a lot of anger against the Hamas leadership, including from, they may not have said it publicly, but you saw that there was pressure. In hindsight, a more astute leader would have capitalized on that and worked with them. But here, there was this urge to show that we can use brute force. There was an intelligence failure. And to overcompensate for that, you use brute force and you don't know where to draw the line. How far are you going to go? First you say North Gaza, then you say, okay, you can move to the south. Then people went south. Now they're attacking Rafah. It's a city where they have, 1.4 million Palestinians. Where will they go? Who is going to take them? Nobody wants them. This is not a solution.
What was the most horrific thing or the most troubling thing in your whole tenure in Israel that you experienced?
I wouldn't say horrific, but the most poignant moment was when a friend of mine called me for a Shabbat dinner, whose husband went to fight, whose son went to fight, whose very old mother had to leave her home because that was the area that was tense and came to stay with her. And, in the day they're going to funerals, in the evening they're looking at the news. Just the strength of these people moved me. That in the middle of all of this, they are following customs and they're trying to take it one day at a time when their whole world seems to have collapsed around them. It was very moving.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip from the Ranveer Show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel because there's something for everyone.